This morning for our Anywhere for iPECS Cloud webinar. My name is Matt. I'm one of the business development managers here at Pragma, and I'm joined by my colleague Andy.
Morning all.
So we're just going to give you lots and lots of information about Anywhere. We'll try and keep it to around 30 minutes if we can, and just encourage lots and lots of questions. Please use the chat, and we've got Raf in the background who'll be helping and managing it all as well.
Let's go.
Shall we go?
Absolutely.
Good. So Anywhere was released earlier this year, and it's a unique proposition in the marketplace. We're the only ones that are offering it, and we really just wanted to spend this time to kind of help with that understanding in terms of what it is. So the first thing with Anywhere is it's app free. So what do we mean by that? You don't have to have iPECS 1.
Nope.
You can literally just have it on your native your iPhone or Android dialer. You just literally consume your phone in the same way that you would do currently. All of the smart SIMs that we put into these devices will extend to the cloud and integrate within that cloud. And of course, you've been doing a lot of work with the sort of compliance side of things as well.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the key things for us with this kind of product. You know, we're talking here about extending cloud out to all the users, and within that, the fact that we can extend the call recording, all of the call reporting out makes it a really important product, especially when it comes to things like compliance.
Absolutely. And, you know, simplicity is at the heart of everything that we do. So as I mentioned before, it's all native within your dialer. It's got call recording. It's called data capture for all of that sort of logging and reporting. It still is just a mobile phone. So it still supports all of your standard mobile features. And it's based on EE, the UK's leading mobile service provider. I think they're all much for muchness these days, but you know, the point being, it's on a recognised and reliable network, which is really, really critical for kind of delivering that robust and reliable service as well.
Yeah. So I think a bit of context is probably a good idea here. We've started with a bit of a high-level overview of what the product's all about, but I think some key numbers on the screen here that really sort of highlight why this is an important product for us. So, we've already sort of discussed about expanding the cloud, so extending the cloud to the mobile users. But it's interesting if you look at some of the numbers here. So according to market research, so, it's some generalizations here, but, less than 7% of users continuing to use their UC app on their phone in the long term. And I think we'd probably all admit to that to some degree. You get given a shiny new app on your mobile phone, but it's very quick. It's very quick to get to the point where you need to make a call and just make the call from the native dialer, and suddenly you're not using your app, because one of the things people say is, obviously with iPECS 1 we talk about compliance. If you've got call recording there, but if someone chooses not to or doesn't use their iPECS 1 mobile client and they're in a compliance situation, suddenly there's a call that's happened there.
Yeah,
there's
definitely.
No record, right?
And I think when we learnt that stat, I was quite astonished, to be honest with you. I didn't think it was going to be that low in terms of continual usage. And I think it's the elephant in the room. As much as we sell our applications, I think there are certainly use cases where it's just not working, and hopefully Anywhere will fill the gap.
Yeah, and I think you've already alluded to that. Excuse me, and it's a common theme probably running through this session, but this is about choice as well.
100%.
We're not saying you've got to go and sell Anywhere and then stop selling iPECS 1, because like you just said, there's relevant scenarios where either one of those products is going to be viable, and people might still choose to use both, of course. So like we do here. And I think the only other number I would probably sort of highlight here is that this 2 billion global frontline workers, and people might be sort of looking at that thinking, what is a frontline worker? But I think as we go through this and talk about the sort of who, that become clear and hopefully help highlight to people the breadth of the opportunity here with regards to this kind of product.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. And I think, it's interesting where less than 7% continue to use it long term. 85% of businesses have a business mobile in there. So it's kind of no surprise what their backup is going to be, is they'll just use a mobile phone regardless of any requirement for compliance that may not be there.
And I think one of the points here as well is, you sort of do a lot of work selling iPECS Cloud, for example, to a customer, and then they go and put all of their mobile workers, their remote people on a completely disparate mobile network.
Absolutely.
And there is no connectivity between the two things.
Yeah, so, we'll touch on that in a bit as well.
Yeah. So we've sort of done the high level, what is it, and talked a bit about context. But I guess one of the questions here is, why have we chosen to bring this kind of product into our portfolio?
Yeah, so I don't think I'm unique when we, all of the business development team, as we go through our partners, I think it's a good question as why, first and foremost, why have we done it? And when you think about it, we've got a portfolio of products here. We've got our phones, we've got applications, mobile applications, desktop, we've got analytics, we've got all of this great, iPECS portfolio of products. They all talk together, they all sync together, and really, really easy to use. But as I say, that sort of little elephant in the room is that most businesses have that mobile estate in their business, which is often I don't know, 2-3 times per user what you would get on cloud. They're funding phones that are incredibly expensive, or hardware funds that are incredibly expensive. But more importantly, they don't really have an awful lot of control over it. And quite often with a mobile estate, when they find there's a problem, it's often when the bill comes in.
Okay.
So sort of pulling in that mobile estate and making it sort of really cohesive, as I say, it now brings them into that kind of iPECS fold, for want of a better term. So again, when we talk about being able to call record, when we're talking about call logging, so using analytics and various things like that, it just suddenly brings that into a position where our partners can go and attack a mobile estate, with something unique, with something very, very different. And, and I just think that's just so important to have different conversations, really interesting conversations. And, whether it's a financial institution that needs 7-year recording and they're using their mobiles, whether it's a sales director that wants to keep tabs on what their sales guys are doing while they're in the car, it suddenly kind of makes it like I say, completely cohesive from endpoint to cloud, regardless of device. And you touched on it earlier. It is absolutely all about choice. And when we look at individual users within a business, as opposed to kind of traditionally blanketing them with certain number of phones, certain number of apps, we can now pick and choose who's going to do what and use what and what's going to be best for them. So from a customer service experience, well, of course, we're not limited now to any device. So if I want to use a phone in the office, I can. If I want to use an app at home, then I will do. When I'm in the car, I'll use anywhere. So I'm probably one of the best examples that I'll use literally everything, depending on what I need and what I want at the time. And again, there are people that just simply want to use a mobile phone. I mean, it really is as simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to use, why can't I just use my mobile? So again, it's introducing those people. But also that last part, it is just a true extension of the phone system. If I wanted to speak to you, and I do on your Anywhere SIM, I literally dial your extension number, press your extension button, whatever, and I can kind of grab you, whenever, wherever. So yeah, so there's lots of opportunity, I think, where you've got those small mobile estates that we can kind of, pull into the conversation. There are some cost saving elements to it. And as we come into the different types of SIMs, I think that further kind of compels that story as well.
And I guess the whole piece about, take you guys in our business, you're out on the road, want to make a call to you. You got your 1000i phone on the desk. Because you're now an extension off of the platform, we've even got stuff like presence if you want. So try and make a call to Matt. Oh, I can see you're busy, because you're an extension on the system, albeit you're a SIM card. There's lots of great opportunities here.
And I know a lot of people sort of might be thinking, well, are we not sort of fighting against our own product in iPECS 1, for example? But I think the other thing that we need to kind of understand is that with any kind of data application, the mobile networks, as a general rule, do not prioritize data on the network, but they absolutely do prioritize voice. So, if we've ever got off the train at Waterloo and we're in a high sort of intensive data area, I can make a phone, no problem, make a phone call, no problem. But, getting my emails, I have to wait until I'm kind of in a different area. So, again, it's that elephant in the room that it's just kind of finding the way of, how can we be in touch with our customers, our clients, all of the time. And I think this just opens the door to that 100%. So
cool. So the Who, I think, not the band, obviously, but we've done a lot of, because you've been involved in most of the conversations that, it's easy for us to sit here and talk about what a great product it is and tell people that it's a great product, but I think there has to be some context underneath that around, but who are the types of customer that are going to embrace this kind of product? And I know it's really old, kind of like this stereotypical thing to say, but it really does cover a huge spectrum of customers.
Yeah.
And I think, initially some people might have looked at this and said, oh, yeah, that's great if you're dealing with a corporate with, thousands of extensions and they're mobile all around the world. But I think we've just tried to call out some of the key points, some of which we've already talked about, such as compliance. And I talk about formal and informal compliance, and I think you've already touched on it with the sales director example. So, you could have proper full-on compliance, where they have to be recording calls, they have to be able to track everything that's happening with interactions with customers. And a good point to make here about compliance is we can go down to the level of SMS. So we've got a service called SMS Copy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're talking to customers and there's a compliance requirement, we can go one step beyond that and say, well, it's not just about recording calls. We can also record your SMS for you as well and store that in a secure location.
It's powerful.
But to your point, there's this kind of informal compliance piece as well, which is the sales director's got, a number of mobile salespeople on the road, wants to be able to see how many calls are being made, how many calls are being answered, and to be able to track that kind of interaction with customers as well. And I think some other good examples of where we've already seen this product deployed successfully is you've got like sort of healthcare, doctor's arena. So my sister actually is a doctor, and I was talking to her about this product a couple of weeks ago, and she said that's fantastic for me because quite often, as doctors have to do a lot of callbacks now, she'll go home, but she's making the calls on her mobile, but she doesn't want to be presenting her personal mobile number out. So we've also got control over numbers that can be presented. And then you've got a lot of these sort of lone healthcare workers that are out and about, dealing with particularly difficult circumstances. Again, they don't want to be giving a personal mobile number out, especially if imagine you're out at a pub on a Friday night and you get a call on your personal mobile. It's but it's not how you want to be doing that kind of interaction. I think service personnel, like your broadband engineer or your gas engineer that comes to your house, a lot of those are now self-employed or working on contract with the bigger organizations. Being able to supply a secondary SIM that is giving out a business number, as opposed to the guy finishes your work on behalf of British Gas and then says, by the way, if you've got any problems, here's my number.
Yeah.
So you're helping those organizations control that kind of thing. And Raf, who's in the room with us, it's his card dealer here in the bottom right-hand corner. Card dealers are a really good example as well. Those sales guys and girls, they're constantly on their feet, they're constantly mobile, they're constantly interacting with. He's just thinking, I wish it was my car dealer. But they're constantly on their feet and interacting with customers, right? So, and I know from recent experience, you get talking to a salesperson at a car dealership, that relationship progresses, and quite often it migrates to the sort of mobile SMS chat environment. Okay.
Yep.
That guy comes back to you on an SMS and says, yeah, we can do it for this price. We need to be able to check that. So
yeah, definitely.
There's a whole lot of, and I would say don't be restricted as well by your imagination. I know Ed and I talked about this the other day when we were talking about API, but I think with a product like this and the power that it unlocks with regards to cloud, you've just got to be cute with how you're thinking about taking this to customers.
And I think those that have got a mobile estate, why would you not talk about this? If they've already got mobiles, then why would you not use this? It's, in our opinion, it's cost effective. It adds all that compliance, it adds all the login, it adds all the recording. So I think, whilst we've given some specific sectors here, I think if you kind of view this, that anybody that is, excuse the pun, but mobile in their operation on any given moment, it will absolutely suit them. And we've even seen some really successful deployments where I'm not sort of condoning this as the lead product, but where there's an odd phone in a school for a site manager that's required. Traditionally those types of environments are very difficult to kind of get coverage, that they're giving one or two anywhere SIMs out to those kinds of people. So just kind of think out of the box. I think is anybody that could do with just walking around with a mobile phone rather than anything else, then this is going to tick the box.
Yeah, agreed. So kind of leading through to this sort of end part of the story now. I mean, if you had 3 things you'd like people to take away that we've talked about, what would those key points be from a sales point of view?
So as many of those that know me, you know, I do quite a lot of sales training, and I think one of the things that I just now love about the portfolio is that it is 100% all about giving end users choice. It's about, you know, hopefully the sales and account managers teams that are out there, you know, selling this stuff. They can now have conversations around individuals as opposed to having conversations around, you know, departments or companies. So if somebody says, "I would just want to use my mobile, can I?" Yeah. Can I have a phone as well? Yeah. You know, so it is just giving everybody that kind of choice of device now, and this, in my opinion, is the last piece of the puzzle.
You could almost argue that we've worded number 1 wrong, because we've said versus, but actually in many scenarios, like the way we work here, you know, you and I are both using Anywhere, but we're both using iPECS 1 as well.
Yeah, that's my devices of choice. That's what I use 99% of the time. So I'm, again, a classic example of how this really works. You know, the record and monitor calls, and again, I think that's really important, because not only is it that sort of final piece in terms of that, you know, that analytics piece, if we're talking about it, but, you know, that informal compliance, the formal compliance, you know, checking sales guys on the road to say the right thing to their customers, as much as somebody giving mortgage advice needs to speak to a client, and they're kind of covered, because all of our you know, our recording bundle, so from 3 months to 7 years, would apply to all of this as well. So again, you can have some really interesting conversations within professional services sectors as well.
And I guess, sorry, just with that, just thinking about it, you know, we've got the PCI product as well. So if you're talking about people that need to be compliant.
Absolutely. I mean, that we're seeing a massive trend that everyone's going for cyber essentials at the moment. There's lots of ISO going on at the moment. You know, compliance is massive. It's bigger than it ever has been. So again, you know, it's another tick in the box from the portfolio perspective. Call control features. So, you know, there are some, you know, you can have your mobile number showing, your Anywhere mobile number. You could have your office number. I believe you can have your DDI number if you really wanted to. So, you know, again, if business owners and stakeholders are sort of trusting people to go out there with a mobile phone, they can, you know, protect themselves that all return calls are coming through the business as opposed to the individual, which is really important. You can hold and transfer calls internally as well. So if a call comes through to you, it's not for the right person, you can ping it straight back into somebody else within the business. So yeah, I mean, it's just so flexible, so easy, so simple. You know, it gives everybody, I think, a bit of peace of mind, but most importantly, it's given our channel, you know, the opportunity to increase that MRR, have different conversations with people, and ultimately win more deals, which is what we all want.
The one thing I'd add to the number piece as well is that's one of the key powerful points about this. It's not just about what you present to the outside world. We've got a lot of control over what's presented internally. So we're not just talking here, we are primarily talking about how we extend this out to mobile workers, you know, be extending iPECS Cloud. But we're very cohesive in the way that we are managing that from a point of view of presenting numbers, because obviously one of the key drawbacks to the UK mobile network is we can't present a 3-digit or a 4-digit extension number across the network. But we've got some really neat stuff in the background that will look at, oh, Matt's making a call from extension 123, and then we can convert it to a number. And as you say, we can present DDI numbers out to mobile users. We can present main company numbers. There's a whole lot of control we have around that. So very flexible.
And I think, you know, even going from welcome text messages to people that are on board, it feels like a proper mobile service. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we can even tweak network names and things like that. So if one of our partners wanted to go on and can sort of brand it out as their own, then that's an option as well.
That's probably a good segue into this slide. But I think, just starting with that, it's again, here we're talking about the icing, or probably the sprinkles and the cherry on top of the cake. But excuse me, absolutely important that partners understand that, you know, we've talked about all the great sort of core stuff that we can extend out on this service. But you know, the mobile network name that's presented on the device, if our partners want to brand it, then they just need to let us know, and then we can brand it on the SIMs that they deploy. One of the things that we're also in the process of doing now, and it's taken us a while to get here just because we wanted to sort of bed the service in and get people used to selling it, but we're now looking to starting to train our partners, should I say, and doing their own deployments. So we have a separate portal, as you know, to do the provisioning for the product, but we can give our partners access to that. And to your point, you know, when a new subscriber goes on, they get an SMS that welcomes them to the service. A part of the branding that we can do is not just about the name that appears on the mobile. We can also brand that SMS service specifically for the partner. So, you know, if they've got particular support numbers or email addresses, we can ping those out onto the SMS as well. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff we can do there. But in terms of like sort of the core components of what we need here, so we support, and they'll hear us talking about PSIMs now, but it's good old fashioned plastic SIM that goes in the phone, or eSIM. And whilst partners can sell this how they want, my sort of recommendation is, because if you look at the way a lot of this has been sold, they're being sold as secondary business SIMs. So, you know, someone's got their own device that they've brought into the business, they've got their own mobile contract with their own data. We just put an eSIM onto that device, that becomes the work line. And I would say 85% plus of the contracts that we're seeing sold at the moment are 0 gig or unlimited. There's a good reason behind that. Firstly, it's worth pointing out that we don't charge for any SMS or mobile phone calls on this service. That's all wrapped up into what the customer gets. So we do get asked quite a lot about data caps and overspend requests from, because I think it's an Ofcom regulation now, right? But actually, because we don't charge for SMS and we don't charge for mobile calls, there's never a risk within the UK network of overcharging on that.
Peace of mind.
And because, you know, we're seeing a lot of 0 gig data SIMs or unlimited, there's no overspend issues on those as well. Absolutely. And one other thing to point out about our 0 gigabit contract is during a call, we actually unlock the data and don't charge for it. And the reason that we do that with our 0 gig is an example, I guess, maybe Matt, you've called me, we're on anywhere to anywhere call to each other, and you're saying, oh, I've just pinged you that email for that deal we're looking at, can you have a look at it while we're talking? Now, if I've got a 0 gig data contract, I've got no means of accessing the web unless I'm somewhere where there's Wi-Fi. So what we do is we open up that data for the duration of the call. We don't charge for it. Okay, so that's a really important thing to note. So yeah, we do have a choice of data contracts, but overwhelmingly we see the most popular options being 0 or unlimited. And then just to talk about the roaming, I would say a very, very small percentage of the customers we've got out there are actually using this for roaming, because very few of the SIMs are being sold as the sole SIM. However, we do have the ability to manage that. So the neat thing about the way that we manage the roaming profiles is we can set like if you think like a pragma level, right? So any new subscriber comes on, they'll always get that roaming. But we can also then tweak that on a per user basis. So if we've got someone like Will who's going to Korea to see the guys at ELG, he gets unlimited roaming. So we can then tweak that per person within the network, and we can change that on the fly as well. So I think it's really important that it doesn't come across we're saying this is a UK only service. It's just that primarily we're seeing it be sold as a UK only service, as a secondary SIM, because that's really where it's the most powerful. But it can be sold as a sole SIM as well.
And if you can just go back one quick thing you just wanted to mention. So I always get lots of questions about the eSIM, about the physical SIM, about bring your own device, about a business device. And I think just preempting some questions, where we're seeing 0 gig is where if I have my own personal phone, I literally add that eSIM onto my personal phone. My personal phone typically takes care of all the data because most of us have got all you need.
Exactly.
But just to clarify, what's really great about it is within your contacts, if you've got a business contact, then I can say that contact only ever uses my anywhere SIM. And then if I was phoning my wife, then it would always default to my personal SIM. And those two SIM cards, if you like, are, although in the same device, are completely separate. So if I'm having a conversation with my wife, the call's not going to get recorded. It would only be on the Anywhere SIM if you sort of select it on a per user or a per contact basis. So anybody that's a little bit nervous about using their own phone, you know, there is no kind of crossover other than just being able to select what contact and what number or what SIM card they're going to be dialing.
There's a lot of user control, it has to be said, because I think, you know, there's you choose to maybe do it that way, but then the way I've got mine set up is it actually prompts me every time I make a call. It says, what SIM do you want to use?
Exactly.
Let's be fair, it's mobile. So there is going to be scenarios when you're in somewhere that I've O2 as my main SIM and EE as my Anywhere. So there's going to be scenarios where I can't use either one. But the other thing I like as well is if you are involved in an SMS chat with somebody, you can flip between SIMs during that chat as well if you so wanted to. So yeah,
really
good point. Yeah,
really flexible.
So well, I think we've already touched on much of this, but this just gives the people on the call a view of the actual sort of core components, their part numbers. But as you can see here, I mean, we've talked about eSIM, PSIM. We do 0, 2 gig, 10 gig unlimited. As I say, the two most popular by far and away are the 0 and the unlimited. We haven't put cost in here because it's just sometimes we get asked not to put costs in here. But I think it's fair to say, you know, you're talking about £1 or something for an eSIM, and the contracts start from about £7 per user per month to our partners. I think if we go right back to the beginning, I'm sure we touched on this. It's a real difficult one sometimes, but we don't position this as just another business mobile service because of what it delivers. However, we have tried to make the costs as close to possible as we can to what customers are going to see in terms of business rates that are out there. So we've trimmed those prices to be as competitive as possible.
And I think people just need to kind of get it into their mindset that, you know, this isn't just another mobile SIM service. So when they're talking to customers, you know, they need to make sure that those 5, 6, 7 core things that are coming in addition to all the usual SIM stuff, they're going to get that as well. And I think, you know, in terms of value proposition, I actually think, you know, it's extremely cost effective for what you're getting and the protection that you get.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess summary, last slide really. From my point of view, you know, this is about being able to deliver a truly converged solution. I know we've been in, or I don't know how long you've been in this industry for. I know I've been in it for long enough as well, but you know, how long have we been talking about true converged solutions? But I think, you know, for me, something like Anywhere does allow us to actually talk about a truly converged solution in terms of what we can deliver.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we've seen, and I think, you know, we're summarising where we are, but I think where we've seen some of the use cases where they've kind of used some or all of this. I mean, we've seen a big transport firm where they needed, you know, SIM cards that are monitored into lorries, but they can't use apps because they can't touch phones. We've seen them in schools and colleges going out there. We've seen them in sales teams going out there. We've got lots of partners now deploying it to their sales teams and you know, really starting to use it. And I think once people start to use it, I genuinely don't think that they would ever go back, because, you know, I think we're, you know, flirting around the, you know, handset application mobile, and now you know, it's all about that. So, you know, extending that service to the mobile, I just think is massive. Now, yes, there are some, you know, really big corporate opportunities that, you know, this would absolutely suit. There's no two ways about it. But I still think it suits that plumbing company with 3 vans on the road, and they need to, you know, they need to protect their business and protect everything they do. So yeah, I think it's a really, really great product. It's perhaps I shouldn't say it, but one of my favorites so far this year.
Say that if you want. So I think that's all we had in terms of slideware. Let's just pop open the chat. Okay, so people couldn't hear us. Andy jumped off. With Anywhere, would you need to have iPECS cloud user licenses for each user for Anywhere and one for their extension number for their desk phone? So you just need a cloud user license for, as you would normally do. It's just a user on the platform. All you're doing additionally is ordering the Anywhere components to sit on top alongside with that as well. So
rather than, you know, does this user want a phone, does this user want iPECS 1, it's now does this user want anywhere.
Exactly.
So you still need to use a license, but this is just an endpoint choice more so than anything else.
Cool. So I guess now is the point. You're welcome, Fiona. Well, here we go. Does Anywhere support Wi-Fi calling yet? This is something that is critical. Yeah, we do recognise that. So if I give you the technical point of view and where we're at on this, so Tango, who is the technology partner that we work with on this, in their defence, they have struggled quite a lot with this, but it's because it's a restriction of how they've been trying to work with Apple. So there's been a lot of issues in terms of getting this over the line with Apple. What we're being told at the moment is we're likely to see Android being the first operating system out of the box that can support Wi-Fi. All I would say is just be rest assured, everybody absolutely is a priority. I have a fortnightly call with Tango, and it's top of the agenda every time we talk, and they're absolutely aware that it needs to be delivered.
And I think it will come.
Oh, no, it will. Absolutely, it will come.
Yeah.
To say, I think at the moment it will be Android first, and then a phase 2 will be Apple, because they're more difficult to work with. Apparently, allegedly. Do we have any more questions from anybody? Are the Anywhere SIMs tied? No. So all of the Anywhere SIMs are a 30-day rolling contract, so they match what we do on a monthly user license on the cloud platform. And on the 0 gig, 2 gig, we're currently still offering 30 days free. So if you want to put this in as a trial effectively for a customer, put it in. If they don't like it, at the end of 30 days, cancel it. No obligation, no charges.
And I think that's it's a good point. You know, with that 30-day rolling, you know, introduce it to your sales teams, introduce it to some of your key, you know, friendly customers that might want to experiment or try it. And as I say, where we've seen partners deliver those sorts of trials, actually we've seen the attachment rate go up quite significantly once people kind of get it and understand it.
Yeah, exactly. Any more questions, folks? Is it going to only be with EE, or over time will there be options? There's no visibility of any plans to work with other service providers at the moment. As you know, when we first launched this service, it was called iPECS Cloud Mobile, and it was a multi-network SIM. Tango chose not to go with multi-net when we moved to EE because of the level of coverage. Excuse me, no, there's no plans to go multi-net.
I think there's some continuity when we're dealing with one network. You know, it's a lot easier to develop, and rather than having to sort of cater for lots of different networks at the same time as well. So.
Yeah, and I think particularly if there is any troubleshooting that ever needs to be done, you know, it makes it easier. But no, Michael, we won't be going multi-net at any time in the near future that I'm aware of.
Any more for any more?
We have recorded this, so I think Raf will be organising to send out a link. So you'd be able to share with your wider teams for people that weren't able to make it.
Yep. And I think any other questions that you've got, fire them over to your account manager or anybody within Pragma. You know, the business development team are going to be talking and visiting all of you over the coming weeks and months. So yeah, definitely get it on the agenda. Find out more about it. Let's understand it. Let's get it deployed. And let's just
and if people want to call me, or email me directly as well, I'm always happy to get involved. I've been heavily involved with this since day one, even down to some of the deployments we've done. So happy to get involved.
Okay, I think it just leaves us then to say thank you and
thank you for your time.
Goodbye. And thanks for listening. And as I say, it'll be available after. And keep your eyes out for the next webinar through our Learn for October series. So thanks ever so much, guys.
Thanks all.